Hello, you're welcome once again to class for us to discuss the 9th session of the course Health Services Management. Today, we're going to focus on managerial ethics and the exercise of power and authority in organization. This presentation will follow this outline. We introduce ethics and the concept of morality, some of the major ethical issues that confront health service organizations. How do we improve ethical behavior in organizations? Is there any rationale for code of ethics to be established? Then we look at the meaning and the various types of power and authority. Lastly, we focus on what we refer to as power bases and power strategies. What is ethics? If I put this question to you, I know you may have different interpretations to it. And there are different ways people interpret ethics because it's a very contentious subject within the literature or the study of organizations. Basically, it's about evaluating what is right from what is wrong. Evaluating and knowing what is right from what is wrong in specific situations. In principle, the values, the beliefs that define wrong or right of behavior refer to ethics. So, what may be wrong in the eyes of some people may be right in the eyes of others. These are other dimensions of ethics to look at. And this ethics concept has various philosophical underpinnings. In this case, the utilitarian perspective thinks that for something to be ethical, the thing must benefit majority of people. If the majority, if you can determine a majority of people who benefit from some action or certain processes or some activity, then that activity could be considered as ethical. On the other hand, the rights view or the rights perspectives look at ethics from a different perspective. Consider ethics from the perspective that all human beings have the right to enjoy the best quality of life, or they have that right to enjoy life and to enjoy its, associated benefits. So that is the perspective they look at it from. So ethical things are ethical when the thing protect the rights of people. When people's right to life, their right to information, their right to existence are all guaranteed by any set of actions, then that set of action or those sets of action are considered to be ethical. The theory of justice perspective also considers ethics from the dimension where any activity or set of activities that guarantees social justice for people could be considered as what? Ethical. And finally, the integrated or integrative social contract theory perceives ethics from the dimensions where the set of social structures, social contracts, social relationships collectively make up what is right. So in every community or every society, what that community accepts as right or wrong determines the dimension of ethics. Ethics and morality are very much closely related. What then is the difference? Morality, however, is a set of standards by which people judge each other. So morality can only be derived from a community where people exist and they have standards or they have value systems that they consider to be what acceptable and not acceptable. Whereas ethics can be what? Personalized. So basically, ethics refers to what? The well-founded standards of rights and wrong that prescribe how people ought to do things in a particular way in terms of people's rights, in terms of people's obligations, in terms of benefits to society, in terms of what is fair, in terms of what is considered virtuous. For example, ethics refers to those standards that impose a reasonable obligation to refrain from social vices such as stealing, such as alcoholism, murder, assault, slander, fraud, or infringing pain on people of any kind. So ethical standards also includes those that enjoin virtues of what? Honesty, integrity, compassion, faithfulness, and the like. There are various aspects of ethics, but that do not form the basis of this course. But it's good that we have an understanding of various aspects, such as the normative ethics. The normative ethics focuses on what ought to be done. We also have the descriptive ethics as opposed to the normative ethics. Descriptive ethics focus on what actually is done or what is actually done. Then we have the meta-ethics. Meta-ethics focuses on what? A combination of what? The various ethical systems. Combining ethical systems of set of people to those of everybody. So the study of ethical systems is what we refer to as meta-ethics. And of course, we have the ethical relativism, which means that what may be considered ethical in one society may be considered unethical in another society. So in that case, the rightness or the wrongness of an action or a process is subjective to the community within which the action is being considered. So there are no absolutes, but there are morally correct actions. No actions are ethically correct, no, absolutely, but there are morally correct actions. And of course, we have the ethical nihilism. The ethical nihilism basically focuses on the belief that there are no correct answers to any ethical question. So no matter how much you put ethical question to test, as far as ethics is concerned, there are no correct answers. Nothing is absolute. Nothing is knowable. Nothing is determinable. There are things beyond what can be determined at any given time. These are quite philosophical, and I believe that it's just good you understand them from this to help you in relating ethics as a concept to your behavior as a manager in the future. Many health care organizations are faced with ethical issues day in, day out. It is reported or it is established that health organizations are one of the organizations that face a lot of litigation simply because of one form of ethical faux pas or the other. And most of those ethical issues that confront organizations in the health sector, which actually warrant many of these legal suits or litigation, are some of the following that we look at. The primacy of action. Every action that a health worker takes, the proximity of that action to the person who is taking the action. How close are you as the person who takes the action? That determines whether you are responsible or the other. If you are a manager and decision is made by an operational worker, a physician, unfortunately takes a decision that goes wrong, how close are you as a manager to that action? That is one of the ethical issues that faces many organizations. Fiduciary duty. Every health organization has a fiduciary duty towards their clients in the sense that they have the responsibility to ensure they work in the best interest of their clients. Ethical issues of conflict of interest facing health workers most of the time. In this case, they are to understand that they are not serving two masters, or the conflict of serving two masters, in the sense that you have organization's interest to protect, at the same time you have the patient's interest to protect. Where do you fall? At most good faith, you must work in the best interest of your clients. Access to confidential information. Health workers have access to a lot of confidential information about their patients. How do you manage this information? You are duty bound to make sure that you protect this information as much as possible for the client or the patient, and you can only divulge this information when you are required by a court of law or with the consent of the patient involved. Vicarious responsibility is also another ethical issue, in the sense that the decisions or the actions of a worker are authorized so long as they remain authorized. He or she is absolved as an individual, but the employer or the organization is the one that has the ultimate responsibility for the actions of an employee. Informed consent, of course, as I mentioned earlier, for carrying out certain procedures on certain decisions or actions on a patient, the patient must grant his or her informed consent before certain medications are applied or certain procedures are carried out. Of course, a lot of experiments also take place, all right, for clinical trials and other things. Workers or health patients are also engaged in certain forms of experimentation. In doing so, is it right to use your patients as an experiment, as subjects of an experiment? If they are right, there are legal processes through which these ethical issues can be clarified. And of course, resource allocation. One of the cardinal things, the major challenges of every health worker or every manager has to do with resource allocation. There are so many departments, there are so many units that are competing for these same scanty or meager resources. How do you allocate them fairly, in a manner that will be devoid of rancor, that will be devoid of what? Cheating, or that will be devoid of what? Injustice of any kind. With all these many ethical issues that face health workers, it is important that ethical behavior is improved or is guaranteed. What are some of the ways you can improve ethical behaviors? First, a leader must lead by example. That is, show ethical leadership. Do what you preach. Set rules and obey them, and do not defy the rules or the standards you establish. You should establish and emphasize organizational philosophy. What is the philosophy for the organization that you stand for? This philosophy must be what? Understood and adopted by every member or partner or a constituent of the organization. Of course, as much as possible, engage individuals or employees with what? Very high ethical standards. And it is important to also establish codes of ethics and decision rules on issues that require ethical and moral judgment of staff. So if the rules are there, it saves the individuals from what? Taking too much discretion that may not be in the best interest of the organization, and for that matter, the clients or the followers. Ethical behavior could be improved at the workplace by the following means as well. Set realistic goals and objectives, and also include ethics in performance appraisals. When you are praising the performance of your workers, let ethics form part of it. Of course, as much as possible, those who are lacking in ethics, provide ethics training and provide ethical support, establish ethics committee, conduct enough independent social audits to ensure that people's ethical weaknesses are what provided for. So individuals that are facing ethical dilemmas here and there must be given support to overcome some of those challenges. What are some of the roles for the code of ethics? What are the rationale? What is the importance? Why are they necessary? We need them. Effective use of code of ethics could help as a guide in handling ethical dilemmas in decision making. It must be communicated regularly to all employees. All levels of management must continually reaffirm their commitment to the code, and possibly publicly reprimand those who go against the code of ethics, and then consistently reward those who go along with it or who work towards it, and discipline those who go against it publicly. Value of ethics training. If you provide ethics training to employees, it actually helps in increasing their awareness of ethical issues in the organization. It helps in clarifying and reinforcing the standards of conduct in that organization. It also helps in building their confidence. The last but one topic within this session has to do with power and authority. It is important that we understand that exercise of power or managerial behavior comes with certain exercise of power. So basically, power is about the exercise of control or influence over other people, or it's the ability to exert influence. Authority, on the other hand, has to do with the right or the legitimacy to give order, and then the power to exert obedience. And the influence, on the other hand, has to do with the actions or examples that directly or indirectly cause a change in the behavior of a person or a group of people. What do we mean by power basis? Power, as we said, the ability to influence the behavior of people. Power bases are basically sources of power. Power can be derived from many sources. Some of them are referred to as what? Coercive power. We have the connection power, reward power, legitimate power, referent power, informational power, and expert power. Each of these have their own, association. Coercive power, basically power derived from what? Exaction of force, trying to what? Apply compulsion on people to do things, whether with or against their will. Connection power is the power that is derived from having connected to somebody in a powerful position. For instance, connection power is, if I'm a child of a president, obviously I have the chance to influence that president to take certain decisions. I don't have any legitimacy in that regard, but because I'm connected to that president, so I have the power connected to that person. Reward power is the power that is derived from what? Rewarding or providing economic incentive for people for doing things in a particular way. So if you do A and A, I'll give you B. That is a reward power. Legitimate power, as the name connotes, basically is a power derived by your position in an organization. If you are appointed the managing director, it comes with certain powers. That is your position power. That's the position you occupy. It comes with certain authority. So that power is there. Referent power is power derived from the respect that we accord certain people. So if you give people certain reverence, for instance, the clergy, people we hold in very high esteem, we respect them so much. In that case, they are able to influence our behavior. So that is a form of referent power. Information power, of course, it is often said that power is information and information is power. Anybody who wants to be very powerful in a group of cliques is the person who has the most information. So more information the person has, the more powerful the person is. Expert power, related to information power. Expert people derive this power as a result of the special technical skills that they may have. The technical expertise of a person makes him very powerful in this regard. How do we exercise power? We call these power strategies. We can exercise power strategies, or we can influence the behavior of people through rules and regulation, establish rules and regulation, and then people will follow those rules and regulation. We can establish power, we can exercise power using direct confrontation. Confrontation here has nothing to do with going to quarrel with anybody. Direct confrontation here usually talks about using facts and figures to make your case if there are disagreements. Attractive personal attributes. Of course, there are certain people who naturally, for show of respect, they are able to influence our way of life. So there may be certain attributes, there may be certain traits about the person who actually attract us, and that attraction will cause us to behave in a certain way. Coalition and group alliances. This one is about forming groups or forming societies and coalitions that will help members of that coalition, members of that group to behave in a certain way. Creating a social space, territoriality. The more social space you have around you, the more powerful you are. That is why the office of the MD mostly in every organization seems to be the biggest office. Assertiveness, ability to assert your authority by what? Using information or using other means that ensures that your principles or the position you take is the most correct one. That is assertiveness. Another strategy has to do with reciprocal open consultation. This approach basically implies that there is that respect for the two parties involved, the follower and the leader. Reciprocal open consultation in the sense that there is that ability or that opportunity for both parties or the parties involved to consult each other, and this reciprocal open consultation guarantees some kind of assurance and confidence and respect among each other. So once that consultation is reciprocal, A can influence B and B will influence A in vice versa. So some of the questions that I would like you to ponder over for the rest of this session is: what kind of power do you use and rely on in different situations or relationships that exist in your life? What kind of power do others use over you or with you? What kind of power are normally used in relations that govern your workplace? And what kind of power do you use in different situations in the future? To summarize, we have looked at ethics and morality, the ethical issues that usually confront health service organizations, how to improve upon ethical behavior, and then the rationale for the use of code of ethics, of course, the power and authority, and the power basis and power strategies that are usually applied in organizations. Thank you very much for your rapt attention. I hope and I look forward seriously to meet you in our next class. Thank you.